Breaking tonight. On the night America was supposed to celebrate 250 years of freedom, President Trump instead delivered one of the darkest, most politically charged speeches of his career. Standing in front of the granite faces of 4 American presidents at Mount Rushmore, Trump didn't just celebrate independence. He declared war on an enemy he says is already inside the country. Stay with me, because what he said next is being called one of the most divisive Independence Day speeches in modern American history. If you want the truth behind the headlines, hit subscribe right now, because this story is only getting bigger. Friday night, July 3rd, Keystone, South Dakota. The location, Mount Rushmore National Memorial, the same monument where Trump last spoke back in 2020. This time, it was billed as the official kickoff to America's 250th birthday weekend, the semi-quincentennial. Fireworks were planned. A massive crowd had gathered. Governor Larry Roden warmed up the audience, thanking Trump for reviving Independence Day celebrations at the monument. Big names were in the crowd too: Senator Mike Rounds, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, all watching as the president took the stage under the shadow of Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Lincoln. For the first few minutes, it was exactly what you'd expect. Trump praised American exceptionalism. He talked about freedom, independence, and what he called the most thrilling story and precious legacy the sun has ever shined on. Classic 4th of July energy. But then, the tone shifted. And it shifted hard. Trump looked out at the crowd and said something that immediately made headlines across the country. He warned of what he called a resurgence of the communist menace inside America itself. Not overseas. Not in some foreign country. Here, in the United States. He went even further, claiming this threat includes what he described as newcomers to our country who he says embrace ideas totally opposed to the American way of life. Then came the line that's now everywhere online: you can be a communist, or you can be a patriot. You cannot be both. Think about that for a second. On the night meant to unify the entire nation around 250 years of shared history, the president drew a hard line, dividing Americans into 2 camps, with no room in between. But he wasn't done. Trump then ranked the so-called communist threat against some of the darkest moments in American history. He said it was a bigger danger to the country than World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, and even 9/11. Let that sink in. He put the memory of thousands of Americans who died on September 11th, and the soldiers lost in 2 world wars, side by side with a domestic political ideology. Reporters covering the speech called it a fierce rebuke, and multiple outlets noted the moment was widely seen as a thinly veiled warning aimed at a small number of rising progressive and democratic socialist candidates. Here's why this speech is different from every other political speech Trump has given recently. This wasn't a campaign rally. This wasn't a press conference. This was America's 250th birthday, a moment past presidents, Republican and Democrat alike, have always used to unify the country, not divide it. Multiple reporters covering the event specifically noted how unusual it was to hear this kind of rhetoric delivered at a national park built to honor 4 former presidents, a monument that's supposed to represent the shared story of the entire country, not one political side of it. And the contrast didn't stop there. Across the country in New York City, Mayor Mamdani gave his own 4th of July remarks. He never said Trump's name directly, but the message was impossible to miss. He talked about how immigrants have always been told they weren't America's best, a clear nod to a common criticism aimed at Trump's rhetoric on immigration. He said America's founding ideals are strong enough to survive any authoritarian regime, but only if people actually fight for them. So on the same weekend, in 2 different cities, America heard 2 completely different messages about what the country's 250th birthday actually means. Now here's where it gets even more complicated. This speech happened against the backdrop of a country already struggling with the moment. A new AP&RC survey found that only about 4 in 10 American adults say they feel proud about the 250th anniversary. Roughly 3 in 10 said excited. That's it. For America's 250th birthday, arguably the biggest patriotic milestone in the country's history, barely a third of the country is genuinely excited about it. Add to that a brutal heat wave gripping much of the country, with temperatures forecast to hit up to 115 degrees in parts of the East Coast. The Independence Day Parade in Philadelphia, the city where the Declaration of Independence was actually signed 250 years ago, was cancelled entirely because of the extreme heat warning. And in Washington, D.C., dozens of people were treated for heat-related illness during the Salute to America celebrations, with some events briefly evacuated due to severe weather. So picture the full scene: record heat, cancelled parades, a divided public, and now a president using the nation's biggest unity celebration to draw battle lines against political opponents. This is not the 250th birthday most Americans pictured. Trump isn't done yet either. This Mount Rushmore speech was just the opening act. He's set to deliver another address at the National Mall in Washington, D.C., ahead of what organizers are calling a historically massive fireworks display, with Trump himself promising it will be the largest fireworks show in American history. Expect this communism rhetoric to resurface there too, in front of an even bigger crowd and even bigger cameras. And politically, this moment isn't going away quietly. With rising progressive candidates already being talked about as targets of this rhetoric, expect Democratic leaders and 2026 candidates to respond in the days ahead. This is shaping up to become one of the defining political flashpoints of America's anniversary year, and we'll be tracking every twist. So here's the real question: was this a legitimate warning about a genuine threat, or was America's 250th birthday just hijacked for a political message? Drop your take in the comments below. I read every single one. If this video gave you the real story before anyone else, smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, because we're covering this story as it develops live, right here. I'll see you in the next one.